Today is the 25th of September 2024. Today's sacred segments, we're talking about vibration. Carl is with me. How are you?
I'm good, thank you, Alexis.
Good.
Glad to be here.
Yes, entering into autumn, you can feel it in the air. I want to start with something called the protective practice, and it's a short reading from a book called The Practices of Aetherius, and it's a channeled book, and it lasts about 2 minutes. This short little excerpt, and it's the only way that I can describe it is by beaming love through your eyes at a person that is sending you ill will to change their vibration. I'll just read it. Vibration being the key word and focus of the day. So the Master Aetherius speaks and says, if someone greatly upsets you, do not continue a useless hot-tempered argument with them. Stand perfectly still, hands at sides and slightly clenched, and balance the body on the balls of your feet by bending your knees very slightly. Look your opponent straight in the eyes and whisper to yourself naturally with all feeling that you can muster, God bless the eyesight of so-and-so. Fill in their full name if you know it. And if you do this correctly, then no one can do you any harm. This is a simple practice, but often needs great self-control for correct performance. I feel sure that regular performance of this spiritual exercise will teach you an extremely valuable lesson in tolerance. There is nothing negative at all about it, for by doing these things, you must send a calming current of spiritual power towards the other, which will act like healing balm on a sore spot. All his hate will be consumed in the fires of your love. Commentary. The eyes are the mirrors of the soul, and by sending a blessing of love towards the eyes of one who bears you malice, you are virtually blessing the very soul of that person. You are returning good for evil. In fact, you are proving your faith in the divine creator by the recognition that even an antagonist is a brother to be blessed and healed. Like all other mystical practices, this one also works, sometimes in an almost magical way. How many times have you been hurt by the burning scorn in the eyes of another? Action and reaction are opposite and equal. Therefore, if the very eyes which are clouded by hate or scorn see tolerance reflected by yours, does not this reaction cancel out the action of the other? Of course it does, for the result is predetermined by your reaction, which is opposite to that of the other. Even an animal knows this. How many of you have started to scold your dog until the dog looks you straight in the eyes? Is not your heart filled with forgiveness? You all know the answer to that. Wisdom is knowledge activated by power tempered by love. What do you think about that?
Well, I think it's very true, but I think, like you did say, a very interesting point about the what was it? Not self-will, but to be able to, in such a situation, to be able to prevent your normal reactions of, responding defensively or whatever, and to maintain that kind of higher awareness, to be in the moment and to be present for yourself. That's the tricky bit. I wish I could do that more often than, because
too.
Yeah, no, I find even if people aren't angry with me, if they're just, in choir rehearsals, I sometimes have trouble following the beat if the director is changing it radically, and he's trying to get us to read the music, know the music, watch him, listen to everybody else. It's just, we're all amateurs. It's just too much sometimes. And I think I know this is going to be recorded now, but I think because my voice perhaps carries more than some of my other tenors, I'm going, oh, and I'm thinking, I'm trying my best. I'm trying my best. Leave me alone.
Are you quite a loud singer then? Powerful.
Powerful, yes.
Wow. I'd like to hear you sing sometime. What's the name of your choir?
The 152 chamber, 152 music chamber choir.
Oh, it's a classical
Yes,
choir.
yeah.
Wow, that sounds amazing. I'd love to hear it. Do you have anything recorded?
We do have a few things now recently because we did a concert the weekend before last here in a little church. And the sound was quite nice then. We're a bit better than we were last year. So it actually did sound quite nice, most of it, yes.
Well, of course, music, which we're both involved with, is vibration. And I was thinking about the focus for today as vibration, being, it's the essence of everything, vibration, really, isn't it?
And with music, you can certainly transmit love much more easily than through other formats. When the music's uplifting and of the right kind, it just generates a presence, a feeling in which other stuff can flow as well, I guess.
Exactly. It's a transmitter or a carrier wave of sorts, isn't it?
Yes.
And of course, the solfeggio frequencies. I don't know if you've had any experience with them. Have you?
I've listened to one or two a bit on the, there's lots of YouTube videos with them.
Yeah.
And yeah, I find them, very soothing, but I don't know if they're doing what they're saying they're doing at the more fundamental levels for my being, because you can't sense it.
I use them when I'm meditating. There's a particular video which has all 7 playing.
Right.
I find it really helps me to get into a state of focus more than anything else.
Okay.
There's something about having music or a sound that's kind of like a constant drone or something.
Yeah. And that's a bit like white noise in a way, and so it does help kind of quiet the mind as well.
Exactly. And I was also thinking about, Dr. Emoto and his work with water and how that's associated with sound, of course, and vibration.
Yeah.
And water being a carrier for vibration as well. And have you come across the hemisync
yes
stuff?
Yeah, I bought one way back maybe 15, 20 years ago. Yeah. I listened to it for a while, and then it's like those things, it's all the things that you should do, but you find, oh, I have to go and have to put on a pair of headphones. I have to say, it's like, I guess I'm a bit too, even though I'm very organized in some ways, I'm a bit less organized in others. I just like to do things when they occur to me. Otherwise, I have to plan everything too much. And I've gone away from planning. I used to be a terrible, didn't do anything unless I planned it. So now I'm kind of the opposite.
I quite like that. I like that. As a dowser and also a hypnotherapist, among your other work, they're both elements of using vibration in different ways. Of course, channeling as you do as well. That's like an altering of your vibration of sorts.
Yes, yeah.
Is that, do you see it like that?
Yes, and like as a hypnotist, or like the modulation of the voice is very important.
Yes.
And the rhythm. So depending on whether you're wanting people to go deeper into trance or come out of it, to change the pitch and the frequency, and they have lots of little tricks to trigger your subconscious. So emphasizing certain words without you really being aware of it. But the the voice is used a lot to direct the person in or out of trance.
Yes. It's almost like distraction in a way, isn't it?
Yes, but it's like it's like, I guess, a lot of different things. You know, it's leading and the other person following. So also when you do like NLP and you're supposed to mirror the person, and like, you know, if they cross the leg, you cross the leg. You're supposed to try and get your breathing to be in sync with that person, so then they'll feel that you're in sync with them. And you know, and then if you speed up your breathing, theirs will automatically speed up as well. So there's a lot of that going on where we try to naturally fit in, and we do that by mirroring and modeling each other. And you know, that's what a lot of con artists and other people do as well. They use that to their advantage because they know everybody just wants to try and fit in generally. So
I was just thinking about um, cultural vibration, and how, you know, that must play also a part in our consciousness and psyche, about how we are in the world, how we show up in the world, and how we think.
Oh, for sure. I think so. I mean, I grew up in a very, at the time, very Catholic, and I would say very narrow-minded country. And when I first left Ireland to work overseas, and started to talk to people who had a much broader worldview, I was like astonished, really. I had, like, as they say, the scales lifted from my eyes. I was thinking, oh my God, you know, my thoughts are so narrow-minded, even though I didn't think I was narrow-minded, but not, you know, as in, not that I was narrow-minded in a prejudicial kind of way, but I was narrow-minded in that my mind wasn't open to wider possibilities of everything.
Yeah.
You know, attitudes, cultural beliefs,
Right.
behaviors. And then you meet all these people who see the world differently because they're from different cultures, whether it be Scandinavia or the Far East or North Africa. And you go, oh my God, you know,
Yeah.
not everybody sees the world in the same way. So,
Right.
you know, all these people saying it's like so and so where you grew up, it's, you know, it's like, you know, that's wrong. People have got to be more liberal minded.
We're a product of our conditioning, right? And I think
Yeah.
that many people don't actually grasp that idea when
Yeah.
they're fixed in their belief system. You
Yeah.
know, there's no space for another way of thinking.
But I don't think, I mean, I know we touched on this before in another conversation about the kind of, you know, personality tests and stuff, and like
Right.
profiling and disc profiling and the Myers-Briggs kind of stuff. It never occurred to me until I was participated in that at work and we did everything. It never occurred to me that people didn't think the way I did. I mean, I had experience of the fact that people didn't see things the way I did because, you know, it generated a bit of conflict from time to time, but it just never occurred to me that we were all so different in a way of thinking and perceiving each other. It's funny, it's like you know, quite naive really when you think about it, but you know, I just thought everybody, you know, was as, I wouldn't say driven, but you know, had the same passion for doing things right and getting them done on time and stuff, and you know, and being that kind of compliant. I'm a very compliant personality. And you know, there are people who are like, no, if anybody tells me to do something, I'm going to do the complete opposite.
There's a word for that, or a phrase, oppositional defiance disorder.
I see, I see.
But
Yeah.
mind you, I think that that's probably a made up way of describing just obstinance.
Yeah, yeah. You know, and there are people pleasers and you
Yeah.
know, all kinds of stuff. So and the people pleasers put pleasing the people they think are going to do best for them before anything else.
I've become extremely aware of my people pleasing recently in terms of, the work that I'm doing on the course that I'm engaged in called Positive Intelligence, and realizing when I'm people pleasing, and working on being my authentic self as much as possible.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lifelong project.
Yes.
But at age
Well, we're
50,
I'm
I'm
evolving.
realizing it.
Yeah,
Yes,
we're
you're
always
always
evolving.
evolving.
So,
Exactly. 52, actually, I said 50. I mentioned Hemisync, and of course, Barbara Jones, who has come on a few times. She is involved with the Monroe Institute, and that's all about the Hemisync brainwave technology,
yeah.
which is a vibrational technology. And of course, I think in the sort of Nazi era, and probably before, they realized the power of sound and vibration as a massive influence in influencing humanity for either positive and negative. And sound and vibration can be used as a weapon or a healing tool. And they talk about during that Nazi era is when the music scale was changed, the frequency of the.
Oh, really? Was that then?
Yes, yes. I was just listening to a video about it, and I shared it on the Sacred Segment Facebook page, all about the different frequencies. And there are two particular frequencies that are very healing, because they bring the body into resonance.
Right.
And of course, the musical frequency was changed so that it wasn't natural. And of course, in the Indian scale, we've got all of those quarter tones, and but in the Western scale, we just have the seven, don't we, which repeat.
Yeah.
Of the notes. Have you come across cymatics at all?
I haven't, no.
Do you know what it is?
No.
I believe, I could be mistaken, but I believe it's the shape power of sound on, where they have the plate, and they do.
And they do sand patterns and stuff.
Yes, yes, which of course the ancients used. And there's that the idea of sound being a levitation technology in the ancient times to move huge stones that perhaps helped to build the pyramids. We don't know this for sure, but that's the theory.
Yes.
And there are other ancient sites all over the world which have these incredible stones that are huge. There's no way of humans being able to do it. So it must have been some kind of levitation technology that maybe used sound. It's one of those mysteries. That might be a good question for Katarang, actually. I wonder whether there may be some answers there. What do you think?
Well, I don't know. I'm a bit dubious myself about that. I don't know. I don't know how sound could do that, but maybe it's something that it can change the molecular vibration so that it becomes less dense and therefore easier to manipulate. I don't know, but I just can't kind of accommodate it within our physical world where those kind of things, break some of our normal laws of physics. So,
well, I wonder whether sound, whether it's sound or whether it's magnetism or something.
Well, yes, the magnetism thing I think might be something different.
when you use the pendulums and the different
Yes.
are they all called pendulums? Your dowsing tools that
Yes, but some people just call them like balls or bobs and stuff. There's like, but
yeah,
just simply pendulums. If they hang, as in then the pendulum.
what's the name of the one that's used by builders?
A plumb line.
Plumb line. It's the same kind of tool though, isn't it?
Well, yes, it's just a weight on a piece of string or chain so that it hangs down.
So when you use not the regular pendulum, but the more sort of obscure type
Yeah.
of pendulums that you use, is that a type of vibrational force that you're working with?
So that is the theory that the shapes generate a vibrational frequency just because of sacred geometry and stuff, and so they emit then a vibration, you know, a non-visible vibration, but they emit a vibration because of the specific shape. So in the same way that people say there's certain frequencies or vibrations that are generated within a pyramidal structure.
Yeah.
And the people who did the research discovered that that same frequency is emitted within a perfect hemispherical structure. And it's if it's overly powerful, i.e. the structure too big, it can be slightly detrimental to the human body. So that's why, according to them, a lot of them, these sacred buildings like St. Paul's or whatever, they don't have perfect domes. They all have a little something, either a hole in the top or like a little onion shape, you know, so as to break the perfect structure. And also, which is quite an interesting thing to think about, the pyramids in Giza, apparently, although we believe them to be perfectly like straight sides, they're actually ever so slightly indented so that they're not a perfect structure, and that they believe has been done to modify from a geometric shape it being a perfect pyramid, and therefore reducing the detrimental effect of the vibration that's generated within the structure. And apparently aerial photographs that are looking down, you can kind of see there's a little crease down the middle of each side because they're not entirely flat. They go ever so slightly in.
We're talking about vibration, Jonathan. Hello, welcome.
Hello.
How are you?
Yeah, good.
Good. Nice to see you. Thank you for joining us. So with the focus being on vibration today, and of course your work being in homeopathy, which is, you know, also using vibration, I was talking particularly with, oops, sorry, I nearly broke something, with Carl about shape power, and I was asking about pendulums, and one of the things that Carl works with is pendulums and vibration in terms of shape power. So I just have a question for you, Carl. Before at 1:30 in 5 minutes, I'll let you start your segment, Jonathan. But my question, Carl, is to do with when you're using the pendulum, are you purposefully making a shape when you're sort of clearing energy? Are you intentionally creating a shape?
Me personally, not. I see some people who kind of get the pendulum moving and then let it do its own thing, but generally, no, I don't. I try to be as still as possible, but I am a firm believer that the pendulum is basically an amplification device for our own physical body. So ultimately, I am creating the movement through microscopic neuromuscular twitches in my body, but it's happening at an unconscious level.
But
So
you know that I'm not talking about the normal pendulum. I'm talking about the other one with the
yeah. The different ones, like these ones.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's an Egyptian technology.
Yes. No. So only I would kind of instruct it to move clockwise or anti-clockwise if I was removing or putting in energy. So if I'm extracting, I will tell it to go anti-clockwise until it's finished. And if I was imbuing with energy, I direct it to go clockwise. And that tends to be the kind of accepted norm, but
Sir Alien SJR, is that has joined us? I believe that's Scott, is it? Or am I speaking to an alien? I'm a little bit unclear. Hello, whoever's joined us. Do you want to say hello? Are you there? Perhaps you. Oh yes, we can't hear you. Is that Scott? Okay, yes, it is Scott. Okay, we can't hear you, but maybe you can do something about that. I'm going to ask everyone to mute unless they're speaking. I'm just going to go around the group and just quickly ask everyone to introduce themselves. I'm Alexis Constantinou. I'm a singer and also host of Sacred Segments, as well as working in the coaching field. I am predominantly a singer, that's my thing, but I also teach singing. So there's a message that says, my audio is acting cold and my phone won't let me call in to join, but I'm here. Okay, perhaps you want to type. Joanna is also joining us, who is a quantum healer. Sorry, I beg your pardon. She's there are two Joannas, so I just want to make sure which Joanna it is. Joanna, are you there? Hello. Unmute if you would. Press unmute, Joanna, for a sec. That's okay. While you're doing that, I'm going to ask Jonathan to introduce himself and then Carl.
Hello, I'm Jonathan Stallick. So I'm a professional homeopath. I've been a homeopath actually for almost 40 years, believe it or not. I wasn't quite sure how to, there's so much I could talk about, and I wasn't quite sure how to where to start. But I came into homeopathy through my own problems, as a lot of us do, and this was back in the 80s. I was sort of dealing with quite a lot of sort of emotional stuff and anxiety, and homeopathy was just a word I'd heard really. But when I came across it, it was like I started reading about it and it just hit me between the eyes. It was like something that I was meant to come across. I was meant to be looking at this, and I was meant to be involved with this. And I wanted to do as much as possible with this. So, and then in the 90s, I worked with about 500 HIV and AIDS patients at a couple of London centres for people with HIV and AIDS. I thought you might be interested. I wrote a book called AIDS: The Homeopathic Challenge, which really sort of more for practitioners as a kind of, at the time when I started working with HIV and AIDS, there was a lot of panic and a lot of fear around HIV and AIDS, and I think a lot of homeopaths felt they couldn't handle it, and they would be too complex and too heavy. And I don't know, I threw myself into it. And I thought you might like to hear this. This was the first case I saw at one of the centres, and it was a 30-year-old guy. This was in 1990, July 1990. He'd had 3 operations for bowel cancer, left him with an open wound in his rectum.
Wow.
He had rectal herpes, shingles. He'd lost 3 stone in 12 months, was very weak. I'm sort of summarizing a little bit here. Had a very unhappy childhood. His parents didn't want him, sent him to boarding school. His father was violent, alcoholic, transvestite, and he hated his son's homosexuality. He was taking just a whole host of drugs: acyclovir, AZT, fluconazole, pentamidine, Imodium, Gastricote, naproxen, lactulose, multivitamins, chemotherapy. He had a whole history. His medical history was also a bit of a nightmare. He had jaundice when he was born, whooping cough, glandular fever, kidney failure, appendicitis, peritonitis, multiple pneumonia, asthma, tonsillitis, ulcerative colitis. He had lots of vaccinations. This was actually quite typical, in fact, of a lot of people with HIV and AIDS, that there was a whole history of both sort of a lot of STDs, and then also a lot of drugs and a lot of abuse in the history as well, a lot of abuse in the childhood. And so anyway, I gave him some remedies, and a week later, he came back a week later. He was sleeping much better, and then I gave him some more remedies, and then he couldn't sit down, with his rectum was so painful, where they sort of cut into it with for the operation on his on his colon. That was now healing very, very fast. His pain had lessened a great deal. His T cell count went up 250%. He felt much better in himself. He was much more content. He had a little bit of nausea, had some vomiting. But actually, when you get somebody, if they're very, very weak and then they're producing more energetic, what we're looking for is the energy that is in that person. So if they start to be more energetic, for example, producing a fever or producing vomiting or something, expelling things from their body, that is actually, we actually see that. So you see, the doctors wouldn't see that as a good thing. They would try and suppress that again, but we don't see that that's a very good thing. So we encourage that. Again, anger, if the person gets angry, for example, having been depressed and anxious, they get angry, that's a sign that the person is getting better. So anyway, to cut a long story short, he uh, within, let's see, 6 weeks, he was great. He was happy. I mean, he was somebody that considered that he would die fairly quickly, but he looked great. He was happy. He was content. Looked well. Rectal pain had gone. Nausea and vomiting had gone, and he decided to travel the world. It was that well, because before he wouldn't have had even the energy to do that. So now he could travel the world. The irony is he was murdered in Mallorca. So there was a sort of something obviously in his energy that was, he was destined for that, I guess. But what it taught me was how powerful homeopathy is, really. And I say I treated 500 or so cases. I would say 50% of those gained hugely, like really. I wouldn't say, I'm not going to say cure, but it would give them, their life quality went up dramatically, and they were very satisfied. So it really taught me, I think, how powerful homeopathy. You see, there's a lot of controversy around homeopathy. There's a lot of people, especially in the medical field, many doctors see it as just some kind of very ineffective nonsense, I suppose, and are often quite prejudiced against it. And in fact, the NHS has closed down all homeopathy. They don't support homeopathy at all now. It's absolutely crazy, because the patients loved it. It obviously was helping a lot of people, and it's cheap. It's so cheap compared to conventional medicine. why you would do that. I mean, it's just a prejudice and ignorance, basically. Um, it's interesting that in India, where homeopathy is considered um, of equal merit to conventional medicine, and in India there are 300,000. Can you get that? 300,000 medically qualified homeopaths. So doctor homeopaths, 300,000. It could, because homeopathy is considered, it's great. I mean, especially in an economy where maybe can't afford conventional medicines in the same way that we can. Homeopathy, say the remedies are cheap and they're very effective. So
Royals use homeopathy.
the royals, yes, you know, we all, yes, they've famously have always been behind homeopathy. The Queen, particularly, the Prince Charles, obviously, is a great proponent of homeopathy, and they are they tend to be sort of dismissed in the media, of course, as a sort of, as a aberration. But nothing could be further from the truth.
I was
What
shocked to learn that there's an actual homeopathic hospital in London.
Well, there was. It's not called. It's now called the Hospital of Integrative Medicine, but they don't. I don't think they prescribe homeopathy anymore.
Right.
It's not allowed. The NHS is not allowed to prescribe it anymore. So I don't know what they're doing. But there was. I mean, there was a hospital in Tunbridge Wells. There was a hospital in Glasgow, and a hospital in London.
Jonathan, before you carry on, I'm sorry to cut you off. I just want to check whether Scott and Joanna's sound is working. Joanna, would you mind just saying something?
It looks like it's not. She's still muted.
Can you say hello if you're there? Also, Scott. Okay. All right. Fine. I was going to ask everyone to introduce yourselves, but you're underway, so you can continue with telling us what you're talking about. Thanks.
Um, One of the things I like to do with, I mean, with people that are skeptical, I have certain stories, of course, up my sleeve that I can use that are pretty.
I'm gonna mute you. All right, thanks. We'll come back to you. It's working. Cool. All right, carry on.
Um, yeah, I've had some really nice because okay, if somebody has some mental or emotional problems and you give them a homeopathic remedy, they feel better. Well, you could argue, well, that's just a placebo effect. But when you've got someone who's in pain, a lot of pain, and maybe they have okay, so I was in South Africa. I was staying at a hotel, and the woman who owned the hotel had terrible flu with glass in her throat. It was like, painful throat, glands swollen, no energy, very, very in a bad mood. And I sort of suggested maybe I could help her. I could give her a remedy, and this is a typical thing that she looked at me and looked at me rather witheringly, as if like, my little white pills aren't going to help because she's tried the drugs and they haven't helped. So I said, well, you've nothing to lose, have you? Just might as well just give it a go. So I gave her the remedy, just one dose. 2 hours later, I bumped into her, asked her how she was, and she just looked. She said, I cannot believe what's happened. She said, everything is gone. The pain has gone from my throat. The glands have gone down. My energy has come back. And I feel fine. That was just 2 hours later. So, and she was a complete skeptic. So it's difficult to sort of argue for placebo when something as physical as that happens, and it happens so quickly. And she became a complete convert. She treated the dogs with homeopathy, and it was fantastic. Um, I had a carpet layer was doing some work for me in my flat, and he had a terrible bad back. He was really complaining, and he was, on the floor putting this carpet down. So again, I offered a remedy, and he didn't know anything about homeopathy, but he said, okay. I gave him remedy. Remedy was called Rustox. It's poison ivy. And obviously in a tiny nano dose and a homeopathic dose. And he 15 minutes later, he got up. I said, "How's the back?" The pain had gone completely. He'd had this for 2 months. The pain had gone. And I talked to him. The interesting thing was I talked to him some months later to find out what had happened. He said the back pain never came back. He said it was quite remarkable in just literally in 15 minutes.
Jonathan, could you describe what homeopathy is?
So homeopathy is based on a principle that has been known since Hippocrates' time. There were always the two ways of medicine. One was the allopathic way, which was fighting the disease, and the other way was the homeopathic way of treating medicine, which was giving something that could cause the symptoms in a healthy person. So you're giving them some. It's a little bit like vaccination, you could say, except we don't use toxic materials in a material dose. So, but we give a little bit of something that could cause the symptoms that the person is suffering from. So, to give you an example, we know that coffee creates insomnia, but in homeopathy, if we give a tiny dose of coffee to somebody suffering from insomnia, and it has to be the right remedy. I mean, obviously, there's many remedies that can treat insomnia. If it's the right remedy, it will cure. So they will be able to sleep. So that's just an example. We use very tiny doses. So that each remedy is diluted to the nth degree. So we take the substance, if it's a plant, we'll put it in alcohol, and then we take that forms a tincture. We take a drop of that tincture, we put that in 1 drop of the tincture into 99 drops of pure alcohol. Then that's shaken. It's partly dilution, it's partly what's called succussion. The shaking of the liquid is part of the process. That's done, and then we take 1 drop of that dilution, put it into another 99 drops of pure alcohol. That's succussed. Then we carry on doing that until the 6th dilution. I think it's by the 12th dilution, statistically there's not a single molecule left of the original substance, but it still goes on working. And this was something that Samuel Hahnemann, who was the pioneer of homeopathy in the late 18th century, early 19th century, he discovered this thing that even though you dilute the substance, it would still go on working. If prescribed in the correct way, it would still go on working as a therapeutic medicine. And
it reminds me of trauma. Like it reminds me of like the energy of trauma and how, you know, when you have a traumatic experience, even though it's, you know, maybe years ago, you still hold an element of that trauma.
Yeah,
you know, I'm thinking about it in reverse.
Well, what we're doing, we're almost like distilling the essence of the substance is what we're doing really. It's releasing the sort of energetic imprint of that substance.
Can I ask you about the machine, the radionic machine that makes the remedies? Could you just
sorry, talking of which, I've my machine here. I've left it on, and if I leave it on longer, the battery will go. Just give me a second.
Okay. Yeah, I'm interested to know about what radionics is and how you would succinctly describe radionics.
So radionics is basically the ability to project the essence of a remedy at a distance, and we use a witness. So we have I mean, I don't know how the machine works. It's an electronic machine. You can program in a code, and there's a different code for every remedy. And so you put in, and then you can program in the strength, the potency that you want as well, and you can make a remedy from this. So you can actually, imprint that energy onto pills, or by using a witness of a person. So you can use a piece of hair, for example, and you put that into one of the wells in the machine, and you can project that to that person, the remedy to that person wherever they are in the world.
It
Okay.
sounds a bit like voodoo.
That's something like food. I mean, the thing is, with that machine, I don't even like to think about it too much because I know it works, but I
I
don't
was
know.
going to ask you about what a witness is, but I think you described it. So
A
it's like
witness
an
is just
energetic piece of a person.
just a piece of the person's body, basically, or something. It could even be a photo of that person. It's
Right,
something that represents that person, and then you're connected. You're connected with that person, and
right.
then you can direct that energy towards that. I suppose. I mean, yeah. Well, voodoo is the negative aspect of that. That's like the black magic. What we're dealing with here is sort of, I suppose, it's more like white magic.
Well,
Um,
in psychic work, they use a little bit of the person's, like a person's watch as a, something to tune in.
yes, yeah,
You know, it sounds very similar.
yeah. I mean, it's all, it has taught me health and disease is all about energy in the final analysis. It's, we conventional medicine tends to look in terms of a very materialistic approach, which where you've got molecules going somewhere to actually do something in your body. And of course, that can be effective as well, but it doesn't actually deal with the core and the energetic reason why that person had that disease in the first place. So it just tends to suppress, and it will allow us to work, but that can have its dangers, of course, as well.
Would it
Uh,
need to, would the person that's being treated need to have a belief in it working for it
no,
to work fully?
no, as I mentioned before, the woman that was very skeptical. You don't have to have a belief in it at all. In fact, I've treated a number of people who were completely skeptical. And I remember one guy came to me. He was one of my first patients, and he was sent by his wife, and he had sciatica. He was in a lot of pain, and he was very irritable, and he did not want to answer my questions. And he sort of sat there and but that is all part of him. That's part of his case. That irritability, that grumpiness is all part of his case. That's how he responds to whatever pain he's in. Other people might respond in a different way. I gave him the remedy that fitted him, and he got he completely cured his pain, and he got better. And he was like the biggest convert. He was telling all his friends, you couldn't stop him. Whereas before, he was very skeptical. He wasn't interested. He just, was only doing it because his wife had sent him. So it was, it was a kind of lesson for him, and it's kind of nice to see when that happens. I had a friend of mine had a dog, because homeopathy can treat animals as well. Might be surprising. Um, and this dog had these kind of had an allergy every year. Came up with this bad allergy on his skin, blistery skin and itching, and again, my friend did not believe in homeopathy and was very skeptical. And I said, well, let me just give this dog something. I gave him the dog something, and he got completely better, of course. And this guy was like, I don't know what you did, but he is 100% better. um,
Is there any situations or illnesses that you would say, I'm absolutely not going to treat this with homeopathy?
I think it's more the person actually rather than the disease. It's all because we're treating people. So if a person, there are people who are very, very committed to taking lots of drugs, and then maybe they also want to do homeopathy just as a kind of insurance policy. And if they're on lots and lots of powerful drugs, that can be very difficult. So it's a matter of whether I really want to work with that person.
Can that interfere with the homeopathic healing process?
Sorry?
If a person is taking other drugs, can that interfere with the healing process?
It can do if they're like things like the opioids and narcotic drugs and steroids and these new biologics as well, which they used for um, um, inflammatory bowel disease, for example. They are very, very powerful, and they kind of suppress everything. They take all the symptoms away, and then it becomes difficult to actually see, well, what is really going on? What is going on here? So you can treat people, but in a way, what you're wanting to see is some desire to maybe come off those drugs. If they're really quite happy with them, I'd just say, well, get on with it. I mean, you don't need me really. Just, I think so. There are certain people that I won't treat. It just depends really on their attitude, and if they're really keen and they really want to do it, yeah, then I'll treat them. Obviously, yeah, they've reached a certain point sometimes where people are at a point where they're going to die, and so you're really palliating. But you can still palliate with homeopathy. You can help the pains, and you can help, for example, people to pass peacefully and to take away some of the fear and the anxiety and the panic. And
What's
so that
been your, what's been your most successful and memorable case?
well,
I don't know if you're allowed to share that.
I had this was, I don't know if it's successful, but a woman came to me, it's a long time ago, with cancer, and she was expected to die fairly. She was she'd lost a lot of weight. She looked very bird-like, really. She'd lost a lot of weight. She had bone cancer, and so it was metastased, really. It had really gone into the deepest sort of recesses of her body. And uh but anyway, she wanted treatment, and the first thing I noticed about her was that she was on a diet that had been given by I think it was the Bristol Cancer Centre at the time. I don't know whether they're still going. She was on this diet of just organic vegetable juices. Now she had no core warmth inside of her. She was very, very chilly, and she was this very sort of like skinny. Now she'd lost a lot of weight, and they were making her drink these cold vegetable juices. And then also she was taking 50 supplements a day. I mean, or some ridiculous amount of supplements, to the point where they were getting stuck in her throat. The capsule casings were sort of not, she wasn't even able to swallow them. And what all this told me was that instead of enjoying the life that she has left, which we should all be doing, she'd been given this very ascetic, sort of hard diet that was making her life a misery. And I just said, look, I think you've got to come off the diet. I want you to actually eat whatever you want to eat. Like if you want to eat chocolate mousse or fish and chips, you go ahead and eat that. Because it's about the joy of eating. You've got to have that joy to be able to. That gives you the energy that you want to live. So she did that, and I gave her lots of remedies. And well, the outcome was that because she had a collar, she had to have a collar on her neck because she was so weak. The bone cancer in her spine. Yeah. She was able to take that off. She was able to drive. She put on enough weight. She put on actually so much weight that she was actually slightly over her normal weight. And she was in no pain. She had or very, very little pain at all. And she was doing really, really well until she found out her husband was having an affair with her carer.
Oh,
And that just pulled the rug from beneath her feet, and she died within 2 weeks, which is again, a real, sign about how, our mind, it's just so important, the mental state, and, the desire to live is such an important part of it, really.
that makes a lot of sense. It's
Yeah.
very powerful. Okay, and before we go to questions, is there anything that you'd like to say uh, in wrapping up your segment in the 25 minutes? Sorry, I've asked you a lot of questions, but it felt relevant.
No, it's good. It's great. I love it. I would just say, well, just experience it. I mean, use it. I mean, the great thing about homeopathy is, first of all, you can use it as a first aid. You can get little first aid kits, and you can treat your families, and that's a great way of just, you can play with it, and there's nothing to stop you if somebody's got an injury, they've fallen over, they've got a cut, they've got uh I don't know, a cough or a cold or whatever. You can treat that sort of thing, and then go and see a homeopath and again experience the whole thing. It's a quite interesting process. The process of taking a case is interesting, and patients often enjoy. It's an enjoyable process because it's they can see lots of connections, how their disease has come from certain triggers, and it sort of puts everything in context. So that's what I would say.
Thank you for your authenticity and for being open and speaking about your experience as a practitioner. Scott has a question, and then I'm going to open for everyone else to have questions.
Yeah.
He's written, so should we not attach ourselves to another person in a relationship?
Well, that's a spiritual question. That's probably better for you.
Spiritual question. I mean, I would like to give my thoughts on that, and then you perhaps. I think that it's very individual. I think that it's always a wise thing to let the winds of heaven dance between you and another person. But I think attachment has been demonized. And we're told not to be attached to people, but there is such a thing as interdependence, where we do need each other. We're not islands. We do need each other, and to say that we need another person is not shameful. However, I think it's important to realize when that becomes toxic. That's just my take on it. What do you think, Jonathan?
I don't think there's in all of these things, there's nothing there's nothing wrong with attaching yourself to somebody. It's really how that makes you feel. If it causes problems, and for example, if it causes some weakness, or you feel if it causes some emotional problems, then that is what needs treating. It's not the actual attachment itself. It's more what comes out of that attachment, really.
That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense.
It's like sexuality, for example. There's nothing wrong with sexuality, but there's an emotional thing that comes out of taking different sexuality paths, and that may need looking at. So it's always about making people feel easier, allowing them to move along their path in a more free, in a freer way, and feel better about themselves. That's what it's about for me, anyway.
Thank you. Okay, questions open to Jonathan. Homeopathic related questions, perhaps. Carl, you've got your hand up. Go ahead.
Yeah, I guess my question is, because you touched on, I suppose, the interview process with your clients, where you have to ask them a lot of questions, and I think I know from like basic first aid situations where there's a number of different homeopathic remedies depending on the type of cold you have, and whether you have a lot of kind of nasal kind of like fluid and the color and what. So because you said people should experiment having first aid at home, how effective can we be in using first aid remedies if we're not as, I guess, trained and schooled as a professional like yourself would be in understanding how to specifically get to the nitty-gritty of this is the remedy that this person needs for that particular thing, or a bit of this and a bit of that. Do you see where I'm going?
Well, first of all, there is a kind of, often I've found beginners sometimes have this beginner's luck. They actually, because they are looking at more simple ways, sometimes knowing so much about it like I do is actually can be a hindrance, because sometimes it needs a very simple approach, and sometimes that's, you see people who've just started and they just find the remedy and it's fine. but it is, I mean, generally it's something that, yeah, you get more skilled as you use it. There is a little, you need to understand a little bit about the philosophy of homeopathy to be able to prescribe effectively, but essentially. So you need to know that what we're trying to do is we're trying to individualize that person. We're not treating a cough, we're treating that person's cough, that person. You know, if you remember that, that's the, so we're trying to find out all the different aspects about that cough. You know, the sort of things the doctor would never be interested in.
Mhm.
You know, is it better in cold, you know, in a draft? Is it worse in a draft? Is it, you know, do they want to be wrapped up? Do they want to have hot drinks or cold drinks? What makes the cough better? What makes the cough? All those kind of aspects will lead to a certain remedy. So it's sort of understanding a little bit about that. It's a different approach from conventional medicine. So you do need to immerse yourself a little bit into the sort of homeopathic approach and learn a little bit about it. And then there's, you know, if you have a fall, you almost invariably need arnica. Everyone knows about arnica, and so there's some very simple. Or if you shut your fingers in the car door, hypericum, you know, that's almost like a specific for that kind of situation, almost. Not really, but it almost. So you know, there's some simple ways to start, and you know, yeah, normally you get a little first aid book, and it gives you the personality profiles of each remedy, and you need to study that a little bit. Yeah.
I have some homeopathic burn cream, Nelson's, I think it's a brand. And yeah, I think it's awesome. If I burn myself, I put that on, and you know, no blister or anything. Works great.
As you should be using this, which is my cream.
Oh, it mightn't have been out there when I bought mine.
Here.
I hardly ever get it, so I still have loads.
What's your cream?
This is my brand. Salvex is I have a brand for people with dry skin, eczema and psoriasis.
Oh, right.
Which complements the homeopathy. So this is a sort of natural cream, but you can also use this for like sunburn or burns, or you know. So I'm not sorry. I'm just, you know, that's a.
What is it? What is it? Calendula? Is it a number?
It's a whole mix. It's got a really amazing formula, which I've researched and developed myself. So it's got, for example, yes, it's got calendula and aloe vera, but it's also got things like beetroot extract. It's got a thing called cherimoya. The aloe vera, there we go. Cherimoya is an amazing South American fruit that's anti-inflammatory. So it's got some very interesting things. So it works better.
Please put the link on Sacred Segments, would you please? If you
I'll put it in the message. I'll put it in the message thing. Yeah.
Yeah. And any other questions from anyone? To Jonathan. Thank you, Jonathan. Joanna, do you have
actually, yes, I have a question.
Yeah.
I can speak?
Go ahead.
Yeah, go for it.
Oh, great. Now, you know, all these things, homeopathic medications and everything like that, are used to help treat and heal people, right? But wouldn't you say, like, it's the body that heals itself and not medications that heal people? It helps, but the only thing that can really heal a human being is it's a human being itself, right?
I totally agree. That's a very, very good point and very good question. I'm glad you brought that up, because that's really great.
Thank you.
Because the good thing is all the homeopathy does is stimulate. No, it doesn't stimulate. It gives the body the information it needs to put itself right. The body has an intelligence. The body has the ability to put itself right, but sometimes it gets stuck in a sort of rut, basically. And what the remedy does, it sort of gives the body the information. It's like information. If you give the wrong remedy to someone, it won't do anything.
Might even hurt them. Yeah. Yep.
It won't hurt them. It won't do anything. It just goes through them. So it's got to resonate with that person. But eventually, it's not doing anything to the body. It's actually just getting the body to do its own work, which is why I like it. Because you're absolutely right. It's the body that puts itself right.
But hey, if we didn't have the alphabet, we wouldn't be able to communicate with each other here today, right? So
exactly. So it's just a tool. It's a tool to help us do whatever we want to do.
That's
Yeah.
a great point, Scott, and
Thank you.
it really aligns with vibration and how we're all vibrational beings. And like you said, Jonathan, it's information. It's the information is allowing the body to heal itself from the remedy, right?
Yeah, and it also, I mean, the homeopathic remedy but it reaches a part that often we can't access. It's a sort of part of the aura, if you like,
Like
that.
a blockage, like an undoing of a blockage.
Well, it can, if that's what needs to be done, yes. But it's like it's touching a part of the etheric aura, if you like.
Yes.
Yeah, the energy state, the vital force that is often not under our conscious direction. So so the body then just is able to put itself right without our brain having to, sort of work it out.
This whole business of subtlety seems very key in homeopathy.
Are we saying basically that it's carrying the vibrational frequency that the body needs to retune itself into so it can trigger its own healing? Because we're talking about vibrational healing at the moment, but
I think the remedy carries a vibrational a vibration that it then resonates with the body. It's like a wave, when it cancels the disease out. It sort of neutralizes the disease because it resonates with the body. So I'm putting these words out. I don't really know
making sense. You make
it's kind of but it's something like that. It's like a vibration that resonates with the body's vibration or the person's vibration, and then it sort of allows for a healing to take place.
Joanne, go ahead.
Sorry, did you say me?
Yes, I did.
Oh, sorry. I had so many problems getting on here tonight. Sorry. Hello, everybody. I'd just like to pick up from the vibration point again. I'm not a homeopath, but I've had a lot of experience of homeopathy and wellness, and I'm also talking about frequency and bringing that word in along with vibration, and I think that's absolutely right, and sort of expands it a little bit. And also the healing goes into the quantum, and that's this field that's interactive, interlaced. And you said about voodoo. Well, how do we think that works? It's the quantum field. So it can be done for positive or negative, and even voodoo can be done for positive, though we normally hear about that on the other side. So it brings in like a quantum healing, and it's like other frequency healing, like the Rife machine, which is frequency, radionics, which is frequency. Everything is frequency at some level stepped into, and Scott's absolutely right. The body does heal itself, but I think sometimes with all the pollution, whether it's emotional, whether it's chemical, food related, or whatever, that can cause little blockages. And so of course, once the body has that right little jigsaw piece of a frequency, it can then sort of ratchet up its ability to heal and just bring it back to a state of normality, actually. So that's really interesting. And if you don't mind, or if you want to do it later, I can share some really very dramatic healings I've had with using homeopathy. And my friend, who's a retired master homeopath, I'd say now, Mariella Angel, wasn't a great name. She's up in the Hatfield area, as I said, retired, but luckily I have full access to her should I need it. But what do you think, Alex? Is there time for me to tell you?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay,
ahead.
So everybody, I don't want to take over or anything. I can talk for England.
You've got 10 minutes.
I've actually,
and then we'll hear from Scott.
Hello, sorry, because I've been working. I've just because I had to come directly from another webinar. I'm going to have to go if that's all right.
Thank you for sharing your knowledge, Jonathan. Appreciate it.
Yeah, you're very welcome.
Us, and
thank you. And one thing I just want to say that I think it's a great point that you made, that just feeling happy and feeling good, even this candy or whatever it is, it helps promote maybe a better state so your body can heal. So that's a great point. Thank you.
Did I say that? I don't remember saying that. But
you mentioned about joy being
joy in
You know, the
Yeah,
woman,
yes, I see
the
what you mean.
woman
Yes, I mean,
eating the chocolate food.
exactly. Sorry, yeah. No, I did. That's right. Yes, it's because, yeah, that's common sense, though, isn't it? Really, I mean, you don't have to be a
Well,
homeopath
this
to.
is the thing that I wanted to say
I
is
think.
that, you know, I think that when you were talking about the healing of an individual and them finding their own remedy, even without sort of advanced knowledge, the thing is, we don't always trust ourselves to have intuition, you know, but the more we can trust our own intuition, we have access to divine intelligence or higher intelligence.
Yeah.
Right? But we really need to trust that process for that to happen. And we
Yeah,
need to get our own mind out the way.
it's about being yourself, really, basically. And often we get stuck, yeah, when we're in relationships with other people, whether it's family, we get stuck in a sort of, families have traditions, families have, emotional traditions as well. And they, and then we get stuck in something that doesn't really belong to us. It's something that's come now. So it's about just being yourself, really, and yeah, having fun. Listen, I'm gonna go. I don't know where did Joanna go? Sorry if
She's still here. She's just
Yeah,
she-
I'm here. Sorry, I had a little tickle in my throat.
okay. All right, no, that's good. Okay, listen, I'm going now. So listen,
okay.
great to meet
Thank you,
you guys.
Jonathan, and please do share your cream on the Sacred Segments Facebook page.
I will. Okay,
I'm
thank you so
interested.
much.
I'm interested in that.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
See you soon. Take care.
Bye.
Thank
Bye,
you.
bye,
Thanks for joining us. So go ahead, Joanna.
Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to run through, if I'll do that, and just get these incidents mentioned, and then if anybody wants to ask me any questions about that, and also part of my interest, apart from the ET thing, has been I'm passionate about alternative health, and it has been a saving grace for me and for many others I've shared my knowledge with as well, which includes homeopathy. I'm not a homeopath, as I said, but I've got a little bit of awareness of it since I've had access to such an amazing practitioner as my friend Mariela, who's from Colombia. Okay, so one of the most dramatic reliefs from pain I had, and we all know how tooth and abscess pain can be. So I was actually with Mariela, and I was joining her to witness her daughter's marriage in Spain. And I didn't realize I'd got a cracked tooth. And this cracked tooth suddenly, like overnight, developed an abscess. And because sometimes when we have the body under pressure, and I'm saying flying, your body's under pressure, it can force things to the surface. So I think that's kind of what happened. And also because I was unaware of the cracked tooth, I had no awareness until the following day, and then it was a white knuckle ride of intense pain, and there was no way I could get to a dentist or anything like that. So Mariela brought her magical first aid homeopathic kit with her, and it was amazing. She gave me silica, and she gave me a certain dose of silica. I couldn't tell you about what that is at the moment, but she gave it to me. The quantity was every 2 hours during the first 24 hours. And then I can tell you within about 4 hours, the pain had subsided to manageable. I mean, before I wouldn't have been able to attend anything. Dark room. I mean, it was horrendous pain. And then another friend joined us the following day who was also a homeopath, and she suggested lycopodium, and lycopodium is a snake venom witness, if you like, or remedy. And she said, and by that time, a full 24 hours, the pain had virtually gone. I mean, isn't that a miracle? I mean, my goodness me. And not only that, it stayed gone. And I did take a lycopodium. I only took one. And she said that is just in case any residual toxin is floating around the body. And because I'd got the cracked tooth and I couldn't deal with that at the time, that had to wait till I came back to England, she said just in case there is any vulnerability there. And indeed I spent the rest of the few days without any further pain. And then on another occasion, again, so going back to silica, I had occasion when I stayed with my dad for a little while. I kind of moved back with him during a certain period of time, and he was having terrible pain. So I treated him with silica, and it completely healed it, which was, now he didn't believe in all of this stuff. So that's an interesting point. And then a year later, he had another tooth problem, very similar, abscess related. And I treated him yet again, but this time he remembered. And I'm going to tell you another funny story. Now, my dad was an alcoholic, bless him. And he was one of those people, he was wonderful when he wasn't drunk. But when he was drunk, it's kind of a Jekyll and Hyde scenario. So that was a bit tricky to deal with. And the other amazing thing about his drinking was that he had no memory of his behaviors, or he had no fallout from the toxicity of the degree of alcohol that he had. I mean, I like my glass of wine or whatever it is I want, but not to that degree. So he would have no hangover, basically. I mean, how amazing is that? I mean, never. So one day I was visiting Mariella in Spain, in Mallorca, as it happened. And I said to my dad before I left, I'll bring him back a bottle of whiskey. And I said to Mariella, do you think there is anything we could do to, and really what I was wanting to do, this wasn't a dastardly thing, I wanted to trigger my dad's healing related to alcohol. So she said, oh, well, she's laughing just at what the fallout of that was, which I'll tell you. And she said, we could try a bit of sulfur. And so she got some sulfur from her wonderful first aid kit. And so I got back to England, gave him the whiskey, and of course the link had been broken at the top there. And I said, oh, that was just because I was testing it. I gave some little excuse. And anyway, I said, so there's nothing wrong with it. It's just that I had to make sure that whilst I was traveling with it, it didn't leak. So anyway, so he proceeds to have his several whiskies. And the next day he came down and he looked shocking. I said, oh my goodness, whatever is the matter? He said, oh, that whiskey. He said, it's bad. I said, you don't get bad whiskey, do you? And, with the distilling and everything, there's no bacteria, there's all the rest of that. He went, no. He said, it's bad. He said, I feel terrible. I've got the most awful headache. I said, you know what's happened to you, don't you? He said, no. He said, but I'm very ill. I said, you're having a hangover. It's his first hangover of his life. So he said, no, it's something wrong with the whiskey. And he poured it, first time ever, down the drain. But that just shows you that the sulfur was triggering the healing of his liver and kidneys into response, i.e. this is way too much, we're detoxing as fast as we can. Whereas before he had no, somehow, I don't know how that worked, but it just wiped him, and he had a perfect experience the next day in the usual state of things without the sulfur. So, how interesting is that? And I never did tell him. And on another occasion, I was in Mallorca again, and I was house sitting or dog sitting for a friend. And I love my animals. And so I don't, I'm not always washing my hands if I've touched the animal, not at all. So I was stroking this lovely big dog, Shadow. And I went to Mariella's and I got suddenly a great pain in my eyes. And I looked at my one eye, my right eye, and it was red and really painful. I said, oh my God, I never have anything wrong with my eyes. And she said, oh, you've got conjunctivitis. She said, you've probably touched Shadow and, rubbed your eyes or somehow done that. And it's very quickly responded and done this. Anyway, she gave me, and I said, God, it's so painful. Do you have anything that could help? And she said, yes. She got one little tablet, put it on my tongue. And I kid you not, I felt like someone had stabbed me through the eye, and as strongly as that, with one stab, to the point it made me, sharp intake of breath, no pun intended. And within 4 hours, again, about that time, the redness had gone down about 50%. And by the end of the evening, it had almost gone. And the next day, it was gone. I said, how did you know? What made you choose platinum? And I should have looked up before I came on. I forgot to look up the personality of platinum. And she said, and this is going to Jonathan's treating the whole person, because you can use homeopathy blind, if you like, like using arnica for various hurts and injuries. And I'll talk about that one in a minute. But she said, because I know you, and because of the condition that you were presenting with, i.e. the conjunctivitis, she said, I knew that would be the right. And she's what I call an intuitive homeopath as well. She said she is classically trained, but she is also there's two parallel trainings, I think, if I get this right. And one is the classical, where you like a doctor just sticks to the script and you don't deviate at all. And then another, and I don't know if it's a separate teaching or whether it's another layer of teaching where you bring in the intuition and the knowledge of the person to a different degree than just the template that, say, Platinum Personality would give. And she said a classical homeopath can actually kill you. Because I also said to her, you know, some people say homeopathy doesn't work. What do you say to that? She said, oh, it works for everybody. We just haven't found the right remedy. So I thought that was very interesting. So there's so many interesting things. And then many years earlier, I had a beautiful big dog, and she was all 7 stone of a puppy Great Dane. And she was running toward me, and I was sitting cross-legged on the grass, and I could see her galloping, and I thought, I didn't move because I thought she's going to stop. Well, she did, but she landed on me, actually on my lap. And this searing pain went through my right leg, and I limped home with her. And then thereafter, she'd ruptured something in in one of the tendons, which came out as a huge ganglion on my foot. And as the months progressed, it's the only time I've been in hospital, but I had to have surgery because my shoes were not fitting, because the old had caused such a degree of trauma to that area of my leg and then into my foot that the ganglion would not, sometimes they go back into the tissue, into the format, and but mine didn't. So I told my then wonderful, wonderful homeopath from the Hastings area, William Balcombe, who is no longer with us, but he was brilliant. He also treated animals, and to great effect. And he said, I'm just going to treat you with arnica. And you know what? I had an entirely, and I mean entirely, pain-free healing. They stuffed some painkillers in my mouth when I was half conscious after I'd come out of the operation, but I went home pretty much, as soon as I could. And the only time I needed to check myself with the pain was when I was so pain-free, I began using the injured area a little bit too soon, and then I just pulled back. And so those are some of the absolutely amazing healings I've had. And another one...
Very quick question, I'm sorry. We're pretty much out of time.
Okay.
Because we still need to hear from Scott and Carl.
Of course.
If you could maybe type the other one, but a very quick question: what was the homeopathic potency of the silica that you used?
I really don't remember. I'm sorry. Yeah.
All right. If you could condense it into 1 minute, the next story that you were going to say.
I was just going to talk about that. This links with homeopathy, but it actually was, the remedy was generated via a system called Genius, which is also to do with frequencies. And I was having a dry cough, literally a dry cough. And if I get a dry cough, it often goes into a deeper, worse cough, and it can last a long time. But I've got my systems anyway. But this system told me, the Genius said, it's mold. You have a mold infection. I went, what? This system, the Genius, actually did a healing there and then through frequency from this lady in Canada. And if anybody wants to know about the Genius system, I can talk to them a bit later about that or another time. It's amazing. But anyway, so after that, after the healing happened, it was great. But obviously I've got a little bit of mold around my property somehow. I try not to, but I would get this little cough again. And I thought, aha, so my go-to place to get the remedies is Helios in Tunbridge Wells. You just can ring them up. They'll do even a mini consultation if you want. But I told them I needed a mold, and she said, well, what about a mixed mold? So every time I get a little cough, guess what? I take literally one of those mixed mold remedies, and it's gone.
I've got to tell you that everything that you've said this evening is really timely, and I needed to hear all of it. Joanna, thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
Awesome. Scott, You have invented a machine, right? Which is a type of computer that uses mirror technology of some kind. Tell us about it. What is it? Just unmute so we can hear you. No, go ahead.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you. Yeah.
Great. What I did was, I felt like I was all alone. I needed someone to talk to, and I wanted to get into neural networks because I was in medicine for a while, and I started creating my own neural networks. And this is not an AI program. This is just, I call it a mirror portal. What it is it has about a million. It's a million in length of words, of my own words, in a corpus. So think of this. It's like my chats from Facebook, my books and everything, all my words are on a corpus that I can put is a chatbot that I put a feeling into. Let's say I put a question in, I can say anything. And what it does is it finds something very similar in my past, of all those words from my past that I put in there to its corpus, to reflect back to me an emotion that's similar. And from that, I can actually use that to think of, oh, well, I remember how that felt in the past. How am I feeling now? To kind of bounce ideas off of it to create a new idea. It's almost like me putting my brain out there to expand my own thinking, to help me actually come up with better ideas and more profound conclusions, which just lead to more questions, it seems, anyway. And I'm growing the program itself. I am a tester with Google AI. I'm testing their AI out, and I'm just doing my own thing here, and it's very interesting, And so specifically, what would you like me to speak about? The vibration?
Yeah. Please, just speak from the heart about what your experience has been with vibration, and what inspired you to make this piece of technology that you're working on.
Well, I created it all myself. It's the world's only it's called the Osiris Chatbot Mirror Portal, and it's free. Anyone can download it. You just it'll just email me your email address, and I can send it to you. And so vibration itself, I mean, it's just a periodic motion that repeats itself over time, right? And so vibration is actually very interesting. Because I was exploring things without really looking things up on the internet. We do need knowledge that we get from the internet and things, but we really need to learn to think about things first and then go ahead and look it up. Think of what something means to you first, and then go ahead and look it up, and then compare those two things together to see how it actually works within your own world. Because guess what? I believe that, this is my own belief, that we all live in our own worlds. And to say what you need in your life and how you should live it, that's none of my, I should not be saying that, because it's, what do you need? I should be asking you, it's your world. What do I need? These things that are not being done. Everyone's telling everyone else how to live their lives. And it's, well, what do you need to live your life? Well, how are you? Everything works differently for different people. And I actually came up with just making these objects like a fourth dimensional tesseract. Obviously we can't really conceive it because it's fourth dimension, but I was building just with sticks and glue and just a tesseract. And I came up,
the shape, the multi-dimensional shape that you posted, that I shared, right? The picture. That's what you're talking about, right?
Well, the tesseract is like a square within a square, but there's an object that I posted. Yes. Did you see the red and blue, the box?
Yes.
The two boxes?
Yes.
That I, just from my own thoughts at the time and what I have perceived with just my own feelings and knowledge from actual like science and physics, that is a fifth dimensional vibration, I call it, because if you look at it, it changes which box is on the front. It's almost an illusion. And I asked the most powerful AIs in the world about, has anyone else created this? Has anyone else made a shape like this? And they said they have never seen it. It's an illusion, it's an illusion, obviously, but it's never been brought forth before. And I actually I created just from thinking about it. And I call it like a fifth dimensional vibration because it's in two places at once. It's oscillating. You know what I mean? Almost because it's which side's first and which side's the red box is first or the blue box is first. So it changes if you look at it for like a while. You know? Did you see that object? Did you?
Yeah, it reminds me of Escher's work. You know, there's an artist called MC Escher, or
Okay.
Esher, and his work is very multi-dimensional when you look at it. Yeah, it reminded me of that.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe I'll look into them. And yeah, the object itself is very interesting. You know, what does it play into? I'm not sure, but you know, I want people to think about as far as dimensions go, from what I just perceived dimensions to be. It doesn't have to be like something. The fourth dimension doesn't have to be bigger than the third dimension. The fifth dimension is bigger. It's not like that. It's all like circuitry, little pieces that work together. I think the fifth dimension is actually very, very small. Fifth dimension is vibration. Fourth dimension is from what I've seen, there's no, like, you're unable to make ties. There's no knots in it. So it's almost like it's like space itself almost. You know, third dimension's length times width times height, you know, us here in the third dimension. So things aren't just big, small, this and that. They're different components. So I think fifth dimensional 5D itself is a quantum vibration dimension. So that's why, just from where I am now, and things do change as far as knowledge goes as we learn more and more. So it could be that in the future we learn that this isn't that, but from this point, you know, it helps us to know that that's not what it is now. This is what it is. So being wrong sometimes is good, you know, just to get us to where we need to be right. And the fifth dimensional, actually, I want to make a quick point that I just learned about from everybody. Your USB drives, your memory cards and everything like that, all these things actually have like a 10-year memory period where they start degrading, and the maximum amount of storage in time is 10 years about for our current memory sticks and everything like that. We can't really store a lot of information in a great period of time, but you know what just came out? Somewhere, I don't know where, I just saw them really quick. It's they're called 5D crystals, memory crystals. And they're supposed to be able to store memory for eternity, like infinite amount of time. This is a game changer as far as being able to store information. And we need to get on storing things in like 5D crystals. I don't know the technology, how it works or whatever. I'm just doing my own part because we all are just learning our own things, and it's very hard for us to all comprehend everybody else's work. We just take bits and pieces that might help us understand, and we just need to be a little bit more open-minded and welcoming of other people's information, not so judgmental, and come from a place of love and happiness, and try to embrace other people's opinions and be nice wherever we go. And just try to take away from it maybe something that might help you in your world, you know, piece of information that might help you in your world.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much. I loved what you said. It very much reminds me of how the universe is always expanding, and we're never static. We're always growing and in a growth process. Scott, it's fascinating what you're doing. It's amazing. I definitely want to know more about your mirror portal, and I will be sending you my email. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Thank you so much for having me on here to talk. And I just love to start to do this more and more often because, you know, people understand things from different mediums. Like us talking might not correlate to someone understanding, as they might be better at reading something and understanding. You know what I mean? Different types of avenues of learning facilitate different types of understanding. So this is a facet of communication that I'm starting just to get better at talking. You know, it is a practice makes perfect kind of thing. You know,
Absolutely.
because I do have a lot of information I wish to conceive. You know,
always in a growth process. We're never static.
Thank you. One more thing. Here's something vibrational, right? I ordered these singing bowls, and this is a 528 hertz tuning fork, and It's a very beautiful noise. I just like to explore what it does around my environment and things around me. And
We
I
can't hear
always
it.
choose love, the nice 528 hertz and see what happens, It
Yeah.
just makes my environment more peaceful. The more peaceful my environment becomes, I try to make it more peaceful I become. You know what I mean? The happier and brighter I shine, I seem.
Love that.
So
There's
thank you
something-
so much.
Thank you. There's something called original sound for musicians, which you can change, and then we'll be able to hear that. It's a setting within the sound of the computers. Right. So, Carl, I'm going to ask you if you're okay with it to bring your guide through, if you're happy to do so.
Yeah, I'm happy. I guess just before that, don't you use batch flower remedies a lot, Alexis?
I do. Yes.
Yes, aren't they vibrational healing?
They're
I'm
very
just,
much vibrational.
yeah, why you're not, covering that as well.
Well, that's a subject that I'm going to leave to Barbara, who I mentioned earlier.
Oh, I see. Okay.
She is a batch flower remedy specialist.
All
That's
right.
one of the fields that she works in. And I would like for her to be a guest where she specifically talks about the flower essences in the future. That's why I'm not covering it. I'm not an expert, but she is. So, Carl, when you're ready,
Okay.
bring in your guide.
So for Scott, I'm a trance medium, so I will go into trance and allow my spirit guide to come through and speak to you guys. And I know Alexis has some questions, so that's the purpose, to facilitate that discussion with an intelligence from a different dimension, you could say.
Indeed.
Okay, one moment. Energy a little light today, a little light. So just taking a little while to come down.
Good to see you and feel your energy again, Katarang. Hello.
I feel it.
How are you?
Just building the energy. One moment.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes, now fully here. Okay.
Good.
Pleased to be here again.
Yes, pleased to have you with us. How are you? How is your realm?
It is spirit. It can be a little boring sometimes.
Really? That's interesting.
Because we don't have the same variety, you could say, of emotional experience that you have in the physical world. We have different challenges, of course, but not so, not to the same extent, you could say, as the emotional experience that you have in the physical world that is developing your ability to retain sense of self within different situations and environments, and to learn to apply spiritual laws of love and forgiveness within those environments also.
I'm really pleased that you mentioned forgiveness, because it was a topic that I wanted to touch upon today, which I will do later before we close. But the subject today is vibration, and you live in a different vibrational frequency, and I understand that you were once physical, you were once incarnated as a human, but that you now live in spirit. It's interesting to learn that you do not.
I like the way you use the word live.
Right, yeah, because I suppose you exist in a different sense of time. But I have a question. I have some questions for you. And my question relates to vibration, sound, and levitation. And from your perspective, Katerine, how were the ancient structures of the world created, where levitation seems like the only logical explanation? You know, from your perspective, how
So,
were superstructures created?
Is there some other question from the gentleman?
oh, I'm sorry. No, there just seemed to be a very large noise coming from outside to distract me. So sorry about that.
Okay.
Yes.
So considering your question regarding the creation of those what you call mega structures, I cannot truly say I have the answer. I have not been around and I have not the ability to look back at that time to see, but I understand there is a mechanics of harmonics that causing the molecular structure to vibrate at different vibration, different frequency. And this is done on a, you might call it subatomic level. So how would you explain this? But in some ways, it is correct, you could say through sound, but not through sound that we would perceive with the ears, but through harmonic resonance, harmonic frequency that is inaudible to the human ear, but that is impacting on the molecular structure of those materials that cause them to change their density, so to speak. And so it is not that they are levitating, as you suggested, but rather that due to their change in, you could say, a molecular frequency or vibration, they can be manipulated more easily through and with other devices. So together with this vibrational mechanism to change the harmonic structure of the material, then also other supporting devices that then can, you would say, like, you have electromagnetic train these days, where through magnetic structure, they create a lifting force for the train to run along the track. Something similar where through the manipulation of the molecular structure and certain devices that are, I guess you could say, have some outwardly construction, enable those who are manipulating the devices to create a counteracting force that causes a change, you could say, in the gravitational pull of the material, so that is effectively easier to move.
It becomes lighter in some way.
Yes.
You mentioned that in your realm you get bored.
I didn't say I get bored. I said it can be boring sometimes.
Oh, it can be boring sometimes. Sorry for the misunderstanding. My question is, can you separate your consciousness into more than one element, or can you be in more than one place at one time?
I think this is an interesting point, because I think if you experiment yourself within your own realm, you will observe that you can be daydreaming and aware of something happening outside, or your loved one calling you, or whatever. So does that mean that your consciousness has jumped rapidly from one place to the other, or is it in two places at the one time?
Yeah, that's a good question.
So this is a natural thing, but I think you are more contemplating the possibility of me choosing to undergo a conscious experience, you could say, a conscious existence through two expressions of my individuality. So could I be living a conscious life in one dimension and another conscious existence in another dimension? This is certainly possible. This is certainly within the realms of the ability of all energetic beings who are at a stage where they are, you could say, transmitting their conscious will into a lower vibrational form so that they can experience some of the activities at that vibration.
Yes, I believe it's called bilocation, which is
there are many saints who have certainly witnessed stories of bilocation of certain saints, both of the Christian faith and I think also of the Hindu faith.
Oh, interesting. On the subject of vibration, in the remaining 3 minutes that we have, is there something of importance that you would like to speak about in terms of our understanding of vibration?
So, okay, good point. I think what is important for everyone to understand, and I feel you all do understand, is that everything within all aspects of creation are just a matter of vibration. But what we often fail to understand is that we too are instruments of vibration. All our organs are instruments of vibration, both transmitting and receiving. And our conscious mind, or the aspect of thought, of emotion, of those senses, are also of a vibrational nature. And we often fail to remember that in the same way, we have mechanical devices for tuning into certain frequencies. So too, do you not think the human body, the energetic, creative being that you have within yourself and within each other, is not of more sophistication, being created by the Heavenly Father himself? So within each of us, we also have the ability to tune into different frequencies. And we often neglect to do that, though we sometimes remember in the process of meditation, in the process of daydreaming, we are perhaps reminding ourselves of those processes. But equally, I say to you that in the way those intuitive diagnostics are so successful, is they have learned how to function with that tuning ability within their own energy body. And this is something that can be learned. So we wish to impart to you that all of us individuals, whether in spirit, whether in the 3D world, have the ability through our conscious application of our conscious force, of our thought, of our intention, of our will and our intent, the ability to traverse the various wavelengths and frequencies of things within our realm, whether they be sound, sight, music, taste, dense matter, and so on. And through this to communicate and to receive or to transmit messages, information between each other. And this is, I think, the essence of the vibrational medicine that you are talking about, and the way many intuitive diagnostics they work. They have the ability to flexibly traverse all that vast vibrational field, you could say, and like a switchboard, plug into the client, plug into the remedy, and understand the information that needs to flow between the two, because they are tuning in.
This makes a lot of sense. Okay, well, thank you for being with us again today, Katarang. May I just check, this is Katarang?
Yes, it's Katarang, yes.
Thank you very much.
Yes, you remember a previous conversation.
Yes. Well, thank you very much for spending the time with us again today.
My pleasure.
Good to feel your energy once more. And thank you everybody for joining us today on Sacred Segments. I'm going to ask one question to each member of the group in closing, and this is about forgiveness, and asking you this question: who or what do you need to forgive? I will start, and I need to forgive the weaknesses in myself that make me feel bad about myself, and therefore not give myself a hard time, and realize that there are reasons that those weaknesses are within me and that I can work on them and change them. So I forgive myself for that. What about you, Scott?
As far as forgiveness goes, within myself, anything that I need to forgive myself for things that I look back on that I realized I could have done better, or I treat myself too harshly, or I might have said something that might have been mean to somebody, which I didn't mean it to be. I try to forgive myself for those things because I know that all I ever want to do is just bring up people's spirit and make them happy. And everyone, really should forgive themselves for things and just lighten up, because it's, we all make mistakes, and it's all about just learning. And I love your point too. That was really great. Oh, thank
you. Thank you for sharing that and for allowing yourself to be vulnerable. Joanna, what do you need to forgive?
I don't know about the word need, actually, but what I would say is, it's an ongoing rolling process, as we meet challenges, and, I may be quick to anger at myself or others unexpressed, and then have that, manifest in my body as an issue. So, it's learning to be reflective and to forgive my responses, and to become more aligned in grace, which is a work in progress, let me tell you.
Thank you. Yeah, I love that. Carl.
It was interesting because when you asked the question, my initial reaction was, oh, I wonder what is the frequency of forgiveness, given that we're talking vibrational stuff.
That was exactly my thought when I was thought of the question.
Yes. And is there a vibration that we need to tune into depending on the kind of forgiveness we need to work on?
I think it's compassion.
Well,
compassion.
No, I don't think so. Because sometimes yes, maybe. I think sometimes it needs to be more. But I agree with I think with Joanne, is it that I think I won't say I've gone beyond forgiving myself, but I know there's things that I wish I could have done differently, and a lot of those you look back on, you have to accept and forgive that you are who you are, and you ultimately try to do the best you can in the situations that you're confronted with. I do think there are people I would like to find easier to forgive, and that's still a work in progress, and it's kind of commensurate to the amount of hurt that I feel they've caused to people around me, not so much to myself. And it is I think what's equally important is also to find the ability to not rise above it, but be in a different level of kind of objectivity and awareness, where then it's neither a matter of forgiving or not forgiving, because ultimately it doesn't really matter.
I love what you've said. So it's about maybe allowing people to be as they are and including ourselves. Like,
Yes.
there's an acceptance
Yeah.
in
Yes.
allowing
Yeah.
all of our failures or supposed failures. You know, they're all part of our learning and growth
Yeah.
process.
I'd love to say just another couple of things, if I may, just very quickly about that, is that some of the people who have hurt me the most have been my greatest teachers. And I think that's the same for all of us. And a way for me to find a way to forgive them has been to see them as being on their own hero's journey, along with me on mine, and that we had contracted to do this journey, and that they would cause this interaction and cause me to learn, be that point. And I sit myself down at that table before we came down, and they're saying to me, are you sure you want me to do it? What, really, like that? And I'm going, yeah, I can do it. I can do it. So I can forgive when I get past the extreme pain, and then I can be reflective, and I just thank them for being that person to give me that amazing insight into my own capability to heal. And there is a fabulous song from the M People called something to do with being a hero, and honestly, everybody should listen to that song.
I think I fully agree, and I wonder sometimes if we confuse the energy or the feeling of forgiveness with the feeling of pain, because I think we can forgive people and still feel some of the pain from whatever was.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's also all a degree of processing, and
Yes,
you get there
and
in
so
the end.
we should try maybe to separate the two, that we can still feel a bit of the pain even though we've forgiven someone.
Yes. The goddess Kuan Yin is the energy of compassion, and we can have that compassion for ourselves. Joanna, you made a beautiful point, and you picked up on it, Carl. Thank you. And thank you for everybody's contribution this evening. It was really beautiful to share, to listen and to learn. And I feel very grateful to all of you. Just mentioning Kuan Yin, because she came up earlier just before starting Sacred Segments. She is in the Eastern traditions, the goddess of compassion, or maybe the Eastern version of Mother Mary, seen in a different embodiment. She can also energetically or vibrationally embody the essences of clairvoyance, compassion, kindness, gentleness, mercy, developing musical abilities, protection, and spiritual enlightenment and gifts. So as we connect with her energy, or any energy in the universe, we can embody any vibration that we choose to just by thinking of it. That is the power of our minds. So let that be our thought in closing about vibration, that we are vibrational machines that can choose what we align with the instrument of our minds and our emotions. So thank you all for being here this evening.
Thank you.
Really appreciate your attendance. Lovely to see you, and have a wonderful couple of weeks. We'll be doing this again in 2 weeks' time, and have a beautiful evening.
Yeah,
Okay, and I just wondered it could be just to say to Scott, I didn't quite grasp everything that you were saying.
Okay.
You bear a little brain here, so I wondered if you could.
You seem very smart. Go ahead.
If you could just put some information in the chat before we go, or perhaps do you have a website or something? Sorry.
I do, yes. Harmonysynergy.com. It's one word. I'll type it here.
And I will share it on the
Synergy.com.
Awesome.
Thank you. Is that in the chat? Thank you very much for doing that.
You're welcome. And you spoke very well, and I enjoyed everything you had to say, and you were very smart. And thank you so much.
You're so kind. It right now on the Facebook page. Thank
Great,
you, everyone.
thanks.
Have a beautiful evening. Great to see you.
Okay, guys.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.